And so, to be honest, if I could summarize the lesson of the parable, I could summarize it in one phrase. It would be Matthew 7:12. In everything, treat people the same way you would want them to treat you. Isn't that what the Samaritan did for this man who was left beaten on the Jericho road? Isn't that what the Samaritan did when he went ahead and healed his wounds and put this man on his beast of burden and took him to a place of lodging and then paid for him to have a night at the Holiday Inn? And then he said, you know, if he has to stay here any longer, I'm going to come back and pay you the rest of what is owed. This Samaritan showed what it means to actually treat somebody the way he would want to be treated. Because I would imagine that the Samaritan looked at this man beaten and bloodied and left on the road and said, what if it was me that was on this road? How would I want someone to help me? And he didn't stop at just asking the questions. He decided to do something about it. And so the Samaritan shows us exactly what Jesus was telling us all along. He had empathy for this man. He asked the right questions. He went ahead and took action, and he was the one who followed the golden rule to a T. So my question is, what's stopping us from doing the same? Maybe it's that pesky thing that Michael Jackson talks about in its human nature. Because the priest and the Levite saw this man, and they didn't do anything about it. The priest saw him, and he looked over here and he said, all right, I'm going to just keep going because I got to go preach. The Levite came and he saw and he said, oh, I got to go and start praise and worship, so I'm going to just keep on going. The priest and the Levite, they were more concerned with self-preservation, because instead of asking, what if it was me that was out there, they said, what will happen to me if I stop and help this person? They were unwilling to put themselves in harm's way to help this man who had been beaten and left for dead. Perhaps it is a lack of empathy and not being able to put ourselves in other people's shoes. That would explain why so many people get upset about student loan forgiveness, or get upset about food stamps, or get upset about Medicaid, because they're unwilling to see themselves, or maybe they're unable to see themselves in those people who need those things and need help. Or perhaps, maybe, we just need to have an honest conversation about whether or not we love ourselves enough to then transfer that love to others. I'm not sure what it is that stops us from doing what this Samaritan did, but all I know is that Jesus was very clear on our assignment. And by the grace of Almighty God, I pray that we find it in our hearts to do exactly what Jesus said, that in everything, we would treat people the same way we would want to be treated.